Conor Maynard Situation is genuinely insane. Hello you gorgeous donut. Today we're talking about some drama surrounding a newborn baby and the scandal that has came with that. Honestly, this is one of the wildest situations I think I'll ever cover on this channel. It's arguably as wild as the recent baby drama we did on Kyra Cousins. Now this involves two social media influencers, I guess you can call them. One is Conor Maynard and the other is Charlotte Chilton. Now we're going to cover who these two people are to begin with. We're going to cover how they actually met, the whole pregnancy drama that's been taking over people's For You pages for the last year, and what that entails, because both of the people have been going at each other and there's no sign of it stopping anytime soon. As you're going to see, one of the people actually releases a diss track on the other person over this situation. Genuinely, I haven't seen anything as crazy as this in a while. So let's dive into this. So Conor Maynard is a singer from England who is also like a social media influencer. I guess he's like a hybrid of the two at this point. He first rose to fame in 2012 when he won MTV's Brand New Award, which is like a big thing to win when you're an upcoming artist. He also signed for Warner Music Group around this time, and I remember him releasing singles and them actually being quite good. I remember listening to this one song on the way to school called Turn Around, where he collabed with Usher on it. Honestly, that was a banger. Turn around, honestly, right? Me walking to school, I'd be like, come on, I'm gonna smash geography today with this. A lot of people were actually calling this guy on his come up the British Bieber, which is like pretty crazy to say. But I remember there being comparisons when I was younger between these two people. Now I hadn't heard of him for quite a while until this huge drama escalated, so I had a little look at his YouTube channel to see how he's doing today, and he still pulls in mega numbers, you know, like he's getting over 500,000 views for some of his music videos. The guy is still doing really well considering like how long he's been going at this. He has over 13 million subscribers, and I remember him growing rapidly when he would kind of social hack his way on YouTube, which means basically he would just do cover of songs that were popping at that time, so then he gets in the algorithm of the song and it kind of elevates his song as well as the actual song that he's covering. It's a very clever way to kind of grow your brand off the back of other people, and I definitely would say that he's quite a household name in the UK. I mean, he's not like an A-list celebrity, but a lot of people would have at least heard his name, I imagine. Whereas with Charlotte Chilton, who is the other person involved in this drama, I had never heard of her before. She apparently was on season 2 of The Traitors. Now, The Traitors is one of my favourite shows. But I haven't seen the first 2 seasons of that, but I did go back and verify that she was on The Traitors. And I think this was how she got into the social media spotlight. Like, obviously, the people that go into the normal Traitors aren't celebrities or influencers prior. They all work, like, I guess, normal jobs, whatever you call a normal job. But once Charlotte had been on The Traitors and she'd done a couple of interviews, she'd actually opened up about her struggles with pregnancy, about, like, her IVF journey. Apparently, she'd had several miscarriages, which, you know, is obviously a horrific thing to go through, especially you being the one going through it. Like, I obviously will never know what that feels like for my body to go through that, so that is just one of the most horrific things that anybody can go through, and it's obviously going to have a lasting effect on you. Now, before we talk about what the drama actually is, you're probably wondering how these two people cross paths. Well, in promotion for season 2 of The Traitors, Conor Maynard actually went to the after party because I believe that his sister is going out with someone that was also on that season, and obviously Charlotte was going to be at that after party. You know, she's one of the contestants on The Traitors, so I think they kind of linked at that party, and Charlotte claims that, you know, they went on to sleep with each other. And shortly after this, Charlotte would actually take to social media to announce that she's pregnant. This was in early 2024, and this was going to be her miracle baby, which obviously at the time everyone was buzzing for her because, you know, like, especially like women that have been through that, they'll know that, you know, how hard it is to have a baby. Like, you're just so happy for someone that you don't even know. However, shortly after her announcing that she was pregnant, a lot of drama followed it, as she posted a video to her social media where she was basically revealing who the dad was.
So, I've really toyed with whether this is the right thing to do or not. I've sort of hidden a lot of things in protection of somebody else through this process. I decided that the best thing is to always be open and honest. Essentially, I have not named the father in protection of him, and I'm in a situation now after a lot of intimidation and a lot of made to feel terrible, referring my daughter to it.
It is in like the clown. It is in like Pennywise, the clown that lives in the drain. Who's calling a baby that? Jesus!
I'm prepared to do it because she means more to me, and I'm tired of carrying around this secret. It's affecting my mental health. So the reason I didn't say who the father's name was because they said it was going to be a massive buzz. I don't think it's relevant. He's made it clear he wants nothing to do with us. I've never asked for a penny, not that he's ever offered, and I'm prepared to do this alone, but I'm not prepared to have my daughter just have to grow up and not be able to say who her father is, or should I say birth father, or if or hide it from her. She deserves to know where she comes from. I'm not a secret, she's not a dirty secret, and I won't be treated like one anymore. I won't be silenced. I feel like I'm being muzzled to protect someone else who has a full legal team. Conor has everything he needs. Yes, that's his name, Conor.
Just dropping that casual bombshell in there. Yeah, Conor. Oh, yeah, it is Conor, actually. Sorry, slip of the tongue. Now, obviously, everything she preluded that with was kind of awful if someone was, you know, the actual dad of a baby, like kind of abandoning it, not it, abandoning the baby. I'm not calling it, sorry. Before birth. You know, like that is, it happened to so many people, like so many people around me that has happened to them. It has such a drastic effect on the baby. So obviously at this point, you know, people are going to rally behind Charlotte and be like, look, we believe you.
Yes, that's his name, Conor. I met him after the Traitors Rap party. And we started seeing each other, and Penelope arrived in my tummy. I am standing up for myself, regardless of if it comes back to me. I just can't do this be quiet and shut up anymore. I feel like I just don't matter, and I just don't want that for my daughter. So even though this makes me feel sick to do this, because everyone's told me not to, in terms of, you know, his PR and stuff, he doesn't even talk to me now, it's them. My friends and family are behind me, the cast are behind me, that I need to put Penelope first.
So obviously at this point, like if you just watch this video without any context and this is the first you learn about the situation, you know, you're going to feel a certain way, aren't you? Like you see this woman, she looks very vulnerable, she, you know, she has to be upset, she's saying a lot of things that you can kind of resonate with and kind of, you know, support her with. And this seemed to be the way that the media was going as well, as she would often get a lot more interviews after this. She actually appeared on Loose Women and talked about Conor and the entire situation.
We did reach out to Conor Maynard, obviously. He's not here to give his version of events at all, but he didn't respond to us. But he has said previously that this is Charlotte's story, and that's been his description. And in many ways it is, because you see that this is your story now, and going forward you're wanting to be truthful, you're wanting to be honest and happy.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's too much of a stigma of everyone having to be married, bought the house, and, you know, in this perfect position to be a good mother. But in actual fact, you know, I just sold my house, was going through a divorce. Yes, it was a one-night stand. Women do that. And then the next thing...
Now at this point, I remember seeing this interview and not knowing what to kind of think, because I was wondering why she was going on so many talk shows. I don't know if it was to kind of expose Conor or just talk about her situation, or, you know, kind of just open up for other people that might be going through the same thing so they can kind of find comfort in it. You know, I didn't know if it was for positive reasons or if she kind of wanted to, you know, possibly get a role in media or something, because a lot of interviews were coming out at this point and it was kind of everywhere. As someone who doesn't engage with either of these people's like content, I knew about the story. Now at this point in time, from the very start of this situation, Conor has always said like, that is, you know, this is Charlotte's baby, this isn't, I don't, like, this has nothing to do with me, like, it's not my baby, basically. Just kind of revoking any responsibility that he was involved in, you know, making this baby at all. Now fast forward in a few months, the baby was actually born, baby Penelope. As you can see here, Charlotte posted this photo, so obviously the main thing is that the baby is, like, you know, born healthy, you know, that's like, you know, you're just so lucky if that is the case. Now despite saying she was going to take some time, like, away from social media, after the baby was born and she was all sorted, Charlotte actually did like a video with OK, I don't really know what you call these, is it like a press release or something, where she basically talked about the baby and also talked about, again, Conor's involvement with the baby.
Have I told Conor about the birth? Yes. It's not something I personally feel I can reach out to him about. He's made it very clear, his views. My hopes for the future with Penelope in regards to Conor is that at some point maybe he will mature and want to get to know this amazing girl, because trust me, in the 4 weeks that I've had her, she is something special.
Now, even the way that she's speaking here, you can tell she obviously feels very kind of, a certain way about this. She feels kind of like annoyed that Conor won't, claim responsibility for this baby, because in her eyes, this baby is his. Now, we are going to get onto later how that might not actually be the case. But the way that she's speaking is she's kind of speaking in a derogatory fashion towards him, and I do find it kind of weird that people like OK and these magazines are kind of, this is hard to say, but would they be doing this whole piece on Charlotte if it wasn't for the whole Conor situation? I don't imagine so. Obviously I didn't watch the Traitors, so I guess my perspective isn't the best on this, but I think they know what they're doing, especially when they ask like only a minute in, like, what is the situation with Conor? Because I imagine to Charlotte they were like, oh, can we come and like talk about your baby and stuff like that. I don't know if they framed it as a full kind of piece about her and Conor. Possibly they did.
And I think he's missing out, but I can't make him do that. But ultimately, I will always back whatever Penelope wants to do. I haven't received any trolling. I have had odd messages from his fans, and it's either been about me saying that I'm trying to get money off him or fame, which ultimately I was in the public eye more than he was. I don't have any money coming from him. The worst I had was, it was actually the day before Penelope was born. I received a message where someone had said, I hope your baby died.
Now, obviously, like, people messaging things like that to her, it's just horrific. And no matter if you are on his side or her side or whatever side, you messaging a woman that about a baby just makes you an absolute loser and doesn't make you any better than the person you think you're better than who you're messaging this to. But also, just before she said that, something I did pick up on is she definitely, like, the language she's using is like, oh, well, I was more famous than him, like, I'm not trying to get anything off him. And I just think that's kind of irrelevant to anything, and I don't know why you would even really mention that or really even bring up that comment in the first place, because clearly a lot of people have been saying this, whether that's right or wrong, only she really knows. But I do find it weird in this interview how she tried to one-up him on the fame thing, because I think objectively you can agree that Conor Maynard probably has more, I hate this word, but like clout or whatever that is. So instantly I got a little bit of a red flag when she'd said that. Now after this she continued to do a lot of kind of press releases. She posted a video with OK again, which was called giving a tour of baby Penelope's nursery. So she was very much trying to kind of stay in the public eye, I imagine, just trying to, kind of build a career in this space, as hard as it is. And because she was saying all of these things about Conor, obviously this is going to have a negative effect on his life, wrongly or rightly at this point. Like, the press were following him everywhere. He was getting hounded by, like, paparazzi and all of that kind of malarkey. Malarkey, that's a new word for me. Malarkey. God, I'm like a 50-year-old uncle. But as you can see here, this is him, like, leaving his home, and they're just taking photos of him and his now current partner. So obviously this is just really uncomfortable, and like, I've never been in this situation. I imagine basically 99.9% of the people watching this video have never been in this situation. But can you imagine you're just walking out of your house and people are taking photos of you? It would make you feel very self-conscious and, you would feel very anxious even leaving the house to go to the shops or anything. You wouldn't want to leave at all. Now, before we react to some of Conor's responses to everything, it is important to know that Charlotte's estranged wife, according to this media outlet, actually came forward and said that Charlotte allegedly cheated on her with Conor when they were actually married. Laura Chilton has claimed that they were still together when Charlotte slept with the singer in London. Laura and Charlotte had been together for 7 years and endured a failed IVF attempt. Charlotte had stated in interviews that she was single and had been single since the filming of Traitors, which wasn't the case at all. She was still in a relationship when she was filming the show. Now, although this is kind of left field with the situation that we're talking about, it is kind of important to note, because you kind of build a character if someone is like a truthful character, or if someone has the ability to, lie about, big things possibly. I spoke to Charlotte last night and just said, stop it, stop feeding this media attention, but it is becoming clear it is what she wants. Now again, that's a very important soundbite in this article, because this person was married to, Charlotte for 7 years. Like, they have a really good indication of what she is actually like, and it is interesting to hear from this person, her ex-wife, this is what she wants. She wants to be kind of, have like a little bit of a scandal around this, which is again a bit of a red flag. Now, after this article was published, the media kind of coverage of this situation ramped up even further, and Charlotte was doing even more interviews about the situation.
I want to call her Penelope Thornett, that's my family name, but I was advised to just run it past you and get permission from you. To which he responded then the following day or two, once obviously his PR team had a good look at it, and I can't remember the specifics of the message without looking, but the message basically said, that is your miracle baby. I do not need you to tell me every detail. You do not need to run names or anything past me going forward. It is your miracle baby. It is not mine. You know how I feel about the situation, but you wanted to keep it, so be it.
One thing I will say is that she was like, yeah, I can't really remember it without looking at it, and then just quoted it word for word. But obviously, after watching that, you're really confused because you're like, well, who is actually to believe here? Like, two people are on totally contrasting sides. One person is definite that, Conor is the father of this baby. Conor is definitely like, I am not the father of this baby, and I know I'm not. So again, your mind is kind of just frazzled, especially with all of this being so public. That is the one thing I really don't like about this situation, because at the end of the day, the person who loses the most isn't Charlotte or Conor, it's the baby. Like, the baby, when Penelope grows up, we'll see this because we're in an age now where videos don't get deleted. Videos from 20 years are still up. When, Penelope becomes 20 years old, she can Google her name, she can Google, her mom's name or, Conor's name, and all of this will come up and be ready, available to watch. So whenever we cover a situation like this where a child is involved, I always just feel so sorry for them that it's been made so public. Now at this point, Conor has been under the microscope and loads of stuff have been said about him over and over, and he's kind of been silent in the public eye, I believe. Like, he hasn't really, conducted many interviews himself like Charlotte has. Now, it's also important to note at this point, like, Conor was getting so much hate. Like, I was seeing it all over every app. Like, everyone was commenting on his photos on Instagram. He was just getting so much hate. People being like, you deadbeat dad. How could you do this to this person? Like, you're the worst person ever. Like, so much hatred was coming his way. However, I believe enough was enough for him, as he actually posted this to his Instagram story. Earlier this week, I took a paternity test regarding Charlotte Chilton's baby girl Penelope in the presence of her legal representative. Today I've received the test results which confirm that I am not Penelope's father. I am glad that the speculation can finally be put to an end. Now, that is a huge bombshell, because at this point it's kind of been Charlotte's word against Conor's, and you kind of just have to believe whatever you believe. Whereas this is the first kind of evidence that Conor is in the right, because it's DNA test results, and if there's one thing that you can't kind of, fiddle around with, it's this. If there's one thing that's not hearsay, this is science. This is like the be-all and end-all. Like, the test results don't lie. Especially a DNA one, okay? We're not talking like a lie detector or anything like this that, aren't as accurate, like a polygraph. This is a DNA test. I also think it's important that he mentioned in the presence of her legal representative. Now, later in this video, we do hear Charlotte talk about this and how she wasn't actually happy about this. But this is him basically saying, like, look, I've taken all the steps to prove that I'm not lying here. He also said, all I would ask is that people act with kindness in response to this news. There is a child at the heart of all of this, and that should not be forgotten. I wish Charlotte and her family all the best, Conor. Now, again, that is like a nice thing to say, because that's what I've just said. The baby is the one that really loses out here. Obviously, the parents are going through a lot of trauma, trying to sort this. But that was, their decision to make it so public. The decision has been taken out of the baby's hands before it's even had, a say in this. Now, obviously, this post from Conor, really changed the narrative around this situation, and a lot of people were now kind of looking at Charlotte as the one who's in the wrong, not Conor. And after this, Conor started doing his own interviews. He actually appeared on This Morning to talk about it.
Realistically, one of the main reasons I felt like right now was the right time to speak about it was because, as you already said, the last year's been really difficult, and mental health is something that I've struggled with for a big portion of my life. And obviously this most recent year has been definitely up there in terms of my experience and my battle with it.
Now, that is one important thing to know. Could you imagine how he must have been feeling during this? Getting all of these death threats and everything against him, people saying the worst of the worst things about him. And he's now took the DNA test, and if, it works out that he was actually, telling the truth according to the test. I can't imagine what that was like to go through. Both of these people's mental health, this situation is definitely not helping either of them, and I don't think the way that it's trying to be sorted is doing any favours for how they're going to be feeling mentally.
Did she tell you before she told the press?
So I was aware of the situation before. However, I had no idea that it was going to go to the press. I didn't know that any of that was going to happen. In my mind, it was like, well, obviously the natural proceeding would to be a paternity test to basically make sure that everything is 100% certain. Yeah. and then obviously we deal with it accordingly. And obviously that's not the way it went. And I think it was difficult to remain silent.
Especially with social media, trial by social media, pressure, and you're looking at all this stuff.
I instantly was painted as a deadbeat dad and that kind of thing, and it was all of my comments across all of my social media was very much all about that. And as I said, instinctively, you want to defend yourself, you want to tell your side of the story, but I also felt like it wasn't right to speak on it until I knew the truth myself. And I didn't want to force that. You know, I obviously research paternity tests and that kind of thing, and I know that it can be considered dangerous for a child that isn't born yet, and also when they're very early in life. So obviously I was kind of just waiting and allowing that decision to come from the other side.
Now you can see the way that he's talking about this in this interview. He doesn't talk about Charlotte the way that Charlotte kind of talks about him at this point. Like, Charlotte has kind of been derogatory towards him. He's very much kind of not blaming her or not kind of putting any of this kind of negative energy towards her, which is a nice thing. I don't know if it's calculated or if it just is because that's the way that he is and he is just a nice person. But everything he's saying makes sense and you can kind of reason with it and you can kind of feel empathetic to, like, imagine you were in that situation and all of these people who you don't know were saying all of these things, and, you know, the fact that he was managed to keep a level head during this, it's kind of remarkable. After hearing him talk on this interview, I do feel sorry for him because I think, like, his name and everything was dragged through the mud. This is honestly one of the most difficult videos to kind of make because I don't want to be nasty to either side of this because people have their reasons for doing so. Charlotte may honestly believe that Conor is the father of her baby. She'll say later on, which you're going to see, she didn't sleep with anyone else around this time. So in her mind, she honestly believes it. So it might not even be coming from a malicious place. She just really, you know, this is what you believe. So I don't want to be too harsh to her because she's talked about her mental struggles, but there has to be a line drawn between fact and, you know, fiction. And here, the science has proven that the fact is that Conor isn't the father of this baby.
Do you feel like you wanted to get out and speak about it straight away?
Funnily enough, it wasn't an instant relief. I actually felt like I was going to have a massive panic attack the second I found out, because I think that's also a difficult truth about mental health, is that, you know, if something traumatic happens to you, the second that traumatic event stops, you don't then go, oh, I'm fine now. Like, everything's fine, everything's clear, like, great, I can now move on with my life. Doesn't really work like that. I think that initially, like, a lot of my friends were like, oh, well, do you want to go and grab a drink, or we'll go and do something, go and hang out nearby your house or something like that, and we can just, like, talk and that kind of thing. And I didn't. I stayed at home with my girlfriend. We stayed in that night, and I kind of just realistically tried to kind of stay calm and just have a relaxed night to the best of my ability, I think.
So was there relief, anger? Was you sad?
It was more, I would say, confusion. It was kind of not really understanding, and I guess feeling like, why did that all have to happen?
Around the time of this interview, Conor would then confirm that he actually took 2, like, paternity DNA tests and they both came back that he wasn't actually the father of this child. So again, just proving that, you know, it wasn't just a one-off, like, one dodgy test. So again, you're kind of left thinking, well, surely the facts point towards, you know, Conor being proven innocent or, you know, not having anything to do with this baby DNA-wise. Why was Charlotte, you know, really going for this? Why did she make everything so public? Because now you're looking at her in a different light and you're starting to think negatively about her, like the exact thing she didn't want to happen. But again, I don't understand why she would take it so public if she wasn't so sure. Surely you have to be 100% to say all of these things about someone. Now, despite Conor saying, please, can everyone have kindness in this situation, you know, like, there's a baby at the centre of this, he actually did end up doing a lot of content, kind of taking the out of what's just happened. I mean, if anyone has the right to do so, it is him. You can tell now he's trying to get his own back. Now he's like, you saying this about me. One thing I will say is pretty crazy is that, like, he's actually included the names and the faces. Normally people, you know, who post things like this, they'll just, like, blank them out. He's like, no, you're gonna have your face exposed for what you've said to me. Now, Conor didn't actually stop there with his responses. He actually made a diss track, allegedly. I say allegedly because I don't think it is confirmed that it is about Charlotte, this song, but everything, in my opinion, would point you to think that it is.
And then I saw that he'd posted out that the DNA test result was saying he's not the father.
Here's an invisible tissue for your invisible tears. Anyway, this is my studio where I recorded.
Fuck off. Villain mode activated. Tissues for your invisible tears. Oh, this just went up and up. This just went to a new height I wasn't ready for.
Single cherry on top. This is the producer, Brendan. Brendan, tell the people what they're going to think of this new single.
Honestly, I
I mean, at this point, I'm like, okay, yeah, respect to Conor. Now I'm like, oh, that's kind of knocked us off a little bit. Well, he's writing a diss track on this woman? What is this, like KSI versus the Sidemen again? Just a lot more messed up, I guess. Is she going to release one back? I hope not. Like, could you imagine being Charlotte, by the way? You found out that, you know, the person you 100% thought was the dad of your, you know, newborn daughter is not the dad. Now you've got a diss track also written on you. That's like a double whammy. Now, I do probably think that Conor, you know, like, maybe he's probably feeling a certain way now. He's kind of past this situation and he's in the clear. He's probably wanting to kind of, you know, just express himself a bit more, because obviously he would have felt very tight, very locked in at one point. Do I think this is a good idea? I mean, I probably wouldn't do it myself, but clearly, you know, he's just kind of feeling himself. He's like, you know what, I'm just going to talk about how I feel in a song. And I'm also going to direct it at you, love, because you are the person that made me feel this way. But it does kind of contrast with what he said about, you know, there's a baby at the centre of this, because that baby is also going to witness this song one day and see this TikTok. Hopefully TikTok's died off by then, you know, so this kind of, you know, the baby doesn't end up seeing it. And this video just left me more confused, because I'm like, this is such a serious situation, but he's kind of just taking the piss now. Is it because of the DNA test result and he knows that he's in the clear, that now he's just like around with it? Now he's like, I'm untouchable, I can do anything. Now we are going to see some clips from the music video that kind of allude to it being about Charlotte again, but some of the lyrics kind of just prove that in itself. Should have known way ahead of time. Ain't got a life, so you came for mine. I'm feeling sorry for the other guy. Took a bullet, probably saved my life. Okay. Well, I mean, if you kind of just pretend, it's almost like you're back witnessing Kendrick versus Drake again, but there's only one side playing. Damn, I swear the only words you know are my name, going back and forth. It's got you looking insane. Oh, baby, you must be crazy. Oh, come on, move your body. That's not an ad-lib, I did that myself, you know, I need to make that clear. So you can see here, he's very much feeling like, you know, I guess, I don't want to say it's anger, but it's like, you know, he's letting out emotion now, because in the this morning interview, in my opinion, it was very kind of, you know, saying the right things. Obviously, he was opening up a little bit, but he was kind of just making sure he didn't kind of, you know, say anything that could be deemed hurtful to anyone. Now he's kind of past that stage. Now he's in his villain era. Now he's like, you know what, I'm gonna talk my Oh my God, why you keep on talking, baby? Won't you stop? Ain't nobody listening, because you talk too much. Please shut up. With a cherry on top. Not a cherry on top. That's too far. With a cherry on top of the... Yeah. Oh my God, why you keep on talking, baby? Won't you stop? Ain't nobody listening because you talk too much. Please shut up. With a cherry on top again. Everyone knows you don't put two cherries on top. And when you look at the music video, like, a lot of the stuff kind of alludes to it being about her as well. If I have another voice break, I might just have a villain off. As you can see here, the microphones have the traitor times and like the, you know, not my son and stuff, because she was doing the interviews with the son. Like, there's little things that are kind of, you know, very heavily directed towards the situation. It is nice to see him kind of fighting back though a little bit, because, you know, the media does get away with a lot of things. They can print a lot of things. You're kind of, you know, guilty until proven innocent with a lot of tabloids. So it is nice to see, like, I guess a creator, celebrity, whatever you want to call Conor, fighting back a little bit and actually be like, you know what, I'm gonna like take control of my own truth here. I'm not gonna let you guys just kind of like go away and just kind of not take any responsibility for how you've made me feel. Now you are probably wondering, like, what is Charlotte's response to everything? Like, has she said anything in the recent days after all of this has kind of landed? And she still fully believes, after all of the DNA tests, after everything that's went down, that Conor actually is the father of the baby. She's not saying sorry, she's not relinquishing everything. She honestly in her mind believes this. And this is what leaves me so confused, because obviously you can't argue with science, but you are left wondering, like, why is someone so certain about this? Like, you know, only they can really know.
His was to be done in a controlled environment with no one else around other than his legal representative. And my legal rep was going to go because I managed to find someone to support me, because obviously I wasn't prepared for that. I thought we were just going to be amicably doing it between ourselves. So yes, so then we go on to doing the test, and I wasn't made aware of a few things that happened on his side at this point. So I'm just waiting for the first result to come in. I then just started getting loads of calls and hate messages come through to my phone. And I was like, I don't even know what's going on. I couldn't even keep up to read what was coming in. And then I saw that he'd posted out that the DNA test result was saying he's not the father. He literally did it as the result come through to my inbox, so I hadn't even seen it. The whole world knew before me. So
now, although that would be horrific, genuinely, like, that, you know, I can't imagine how she felt during that, but she also took everything public in the first place, so I don't think he's necessarily in the wrong for doing that, because this entire situation, everyone knows everything about it at this point, so there's no point in keeping anything kind of secret at this rate.
That was very difficult, because one, I didn't understand it, But 2, the messages were horrific. They were saying that I should be, I deserve to be. My daughter was a number of things.
That's one thing I'll never understand, is these situations, like, the people in them are usually not the worst people somehow. It's always the people that comment on it, you know? It's always the people that say things like she's just said. Like, why? Why can't you just be like, oh, the DNA test said this, so clearly he's not the father, I'll just go on with my day? Like, why do they have to, like, send like, such horrific messages? It's fine to criticise someone, it's fine to say your piece, but you don't need to say things like that.
But I got a call then saying, look, Charlotte, I need to make you aware of a few things about this first test. It didn't take place in the solicitor's office. And I was like, well, where was it then? He said at the last moment he decided he was having a panic attack and he wasn't going to leave the house. And so if we were going to go through with it, we had to go to his flat right then. But she was willing to go, this lady. But there was another male there. And obviously she got there quite a little bit after. So with the result being completely, like, just literally was not understanding the result at all, my mind was like, is there foul play? I mean, I obviously can't say for definite there was, but in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I only slept with one person, so there's got to be something wrong.
Now, I know I'm nitpicking here, but she's putting this out there, arguably, you could say, to kind of add doubt to the DNA test result. Now, you know, the fact that they've done 2 and there was a solicitor there, like, it doesn't really matter where the thing takes place as long as the solicitor's there. Yes, you can say that they've swapped the DNA, but then they can go to jail for that. Like, I don't think they would take those chances personally.
I can't say there's foul play. I want to make that clear. I'm not accusing him of that necessarily, but I also know that there's no other person that I can test. So in my mind, I'm like, well, somewhere it's gone wrong.
And that is the one thing that she's always maintained throughout this. She's never once said, like, oh, there could be this other person. She's adamant that it has to be Conor, which is why some people are still confused and some people are still putting theories out there. Now, a lot of people have brought forward the theory of, like, chimerism, which I'm going to tell you exactly what this is, but I need to read it because it is kind of complicated. Chimerism in humans can occur when a mom is pregnant with twins. If one embryo dies, the other one could possibly absorb its deceased twin cells. Normally in humans, you have cells with only your DNA, which is a basic understanding of genetics. But with chimera, this basic understanding is, like, obsolete. A chimera will have 2 sets of cells with 2 distinct types of DNA, which basically means it might not have the same DNA as the dad, even though the dad is the dad. And a lot of people have been kind of, you know, believing that this is the case. People in Conor's comments, could you be chimera? Honestly, at this point, it's the only logical reason for her to be pressing this hard. I now actually believe this woman. Now, you know, obviously, there's science in the DNA test results, which is, like, you know, you can't argue with. But from an emotional, like, morality standpoint, I don't actually, like, kind of knock people for saying this, because I think as a human, you're like, how could a human do this to another human? How could a human put someone else through this when it's not actually got anything to do with them? Like, you do start to think of other rationale to kind of, like, justify it. Do you know what I mean? Because you can't fathom that somebody would actually say these things without, like, being 100% about it. However, Conor actually responded to this exact comment, and I feel like I need to read this out here. Did you just say chimerism, a rare medical condition that only has 100 recorded instances in history, which also doesn't apply in this scenario, because if that was the case, a percentage of my DNA would still have matched with Penelope's. Both tests showed 0% match, and the DNA testers would have picked up on the genetic anomaly is the only logical explanation against the explanation that is simply just a woman who got caught lying and won't accept it because she gets paid for these interviews and wants the attention. Now, that is such a good response because it's so, like, condemning of that theory, and that is one of the only real theories people have to kind of, you know, still believe Charlotte at this point. And what he's saying is true. It is a very, 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 very rare genetic thing that, you know, isn't common at all. And also, he is saying allegedly she's getting paid for these interviews. I would say that is also true because I know that tabloids pay people for interviews like this a lot of money. I'm talking like 4, 5, possibly 6 figures. It's a lot of money, and that is why you constantly are seeing possibly her do these, because she wouldn't do them for free. She just wouldn't. And just going back to what her ex-wife said, you kind of get a picture of Charlotte that she kind of likes the kind of, you know, she likes being in the public eye. This is kind of what she sees her career in. And unfortunately, the way that this is kind of going about, I don't really see a future for her unless somehow she can prove that, you know, she is telling the truth about this, which seems very, very, very unlikely at this point. And like you've probably seen in this video, I haven't been harsh towards her or harsh towards Conor. I just fear for the mental health of both of them, really. You know, this couldn't have been easy for Conor, and I feel like he's kind of went about it, apart from the diss tracks and stuff, but I guess that's him just blown out. Before that, he kind of went around it really, you know, I guess, well, according, you know, from what he's shown us. But I do just fear for Charlotte, because how is she going to move forward with this? Because obviously she's not really going to have kind of a career within social media. And I think it's hard anyway being off the traitors personally, because you never really see anyone off the traitors do that well in this kind of space. Because if you're a traitor, you've become famous for being a liar, which people can't really kind of connect with, because they know you're quite cunning and conniving. And, you know, the faithful, there's so many faithful that it's kind of hard to even get that much camera time. So it's very difficult to build a career being off the traitors, and in my opinion, no one has successfully done it long term. But again, I want to reiterate that the person who loses the most in this situation is unfortunately the baby, and I really hope that, you know, when eventually the baby does grow up, that they're not kind of consumed by this, and this doesn't have an effect on their life, because you know how evil children can be sometimes if people find out, especially the mum and dad at school say, oh, by the way, that person in your class, this happened. All of that kind of drama that, you know, nasty people do. I really hope that this doesn't have an effect on the child, because nobody deserves this, especially so, you know, young in life. Now, I haven't actually seen anything from Charlotte recently. I don't kind of want to dig too deep if they're not really posting that much. However, Conor has actually announced that he's now engaged to his current partner, so he seems to be kind of moving on with his life right now. Hopefully Charlotte can kind of do the same. I don't really know if she's ever going to get peace of mind about this, because obviously if she's not slept with anyone else, like, there has to be a father to this baby. So, you know, who is it? That's the thing that Charlotte kind of needs to discover, unfortunately. But I hope you have enjoyed my coverage of this. Donuts, apology if it wasn't as light-hearted. It's kind of difficult to make light of a situation like this. I hate to, you know, be insensitive if I was. So hopefully you have enjoyed this. Apology if it's not as light-hearted as normal. If you do want to watch an exact situation that is very similar to this one, but arguably 10 times worse, where somebody actually faked their pregnancy with a fake doll, you can click this video right here. This is a situation that happened in Scotland. It's very real. It happened in the last month. Genuinely, it is wild. I shall see you over there. Alright, bye bye donuts. Drop a like.
Kirkham, baby.